The Cardistry 2019 NOC playing card, you are not going to want to miss out on these cards. So they are 10% off down in the description below if you want to check them out using code cardperfectmagician. But enough with the talking, let's get into this deck review right now. The tuck box is done in a completely holographic silver. It says Cardistry NOC on the front, but you have to hold it sideways, and it's done in a more mustardy yellow, which I'm really not a fan of. The sides and back are done in completely blank silver. And the bottom has USPCC ad copy and houseofplayingcards.com. You're going to have a nice mustard yellow tuck seal. This is CC 2019 for Cardistry 2019. Beside that, the rest of the top is blank, and both of the inside tuck flaps are blank from the large one to the inner two. And the inside of the tuck box is done completely checkerboard style. That's all I can say about the tuck box, so let's take a look at the cards. Now let's talk about this back design, shall we? Truth be told, I am not a fan at all. I'm honestly not a fan of this deck. It's done with a bunch of yellowish, orangish, greenish squares with a medium border. Some of them are even almost brown. It is a one-way deck. Honestly, I hate the colors. I hate the way this deck is done, and I truly think this deck looks like someone threw up in a square pattern. Now let's look at the faces. They are done completely standard. Your reds are reds, your black are black, and everything seems to be exactly the way it should be. Your three aces are also going to be completely standard, just like the number cards. Your court cards are going to be recolored to where some of the blacks are now blue, and your yellows are now more of a booger green. Your ace of spades is going to be the standard NOC ace of spades. This is standard premium quality House of Playing cards. Then you have a duplicate one-way jokers, which are great for magic tricks. Then you have an ad card where one side has one block that is blank, and on the other side is a 7 of diamonds reveal. Now I understand why they would do a 7 of diamonds reveal. That looks kind of cool. The other side having one random blank one is kind of odd. And having this in a cardistry deck is odd as well. And lastly, you have an ad card that says get 10% off using this code at the checkout at houseofplayingcards.com. So if you want 10% off there, make sure to head over and pick this deck up. Now after all that, there's still some things that you need to know. First of all, can this deck pharaoh? So from bottom to top, you're going to see that it pharaohs every other perfectly. Absolutely no problem there. And then from top to bottom, you have really, really easy to pharaoh. So absolutely no problem with that. If you're going to try and do a plethora of moves from Cascade to Riffle Shuffles to just about anything else, the Pharaoh Shuffle comes in pretty handy. So next, let's check out some fans. So this would be the face fan. So no surprise, it looks like every other fan you've ever seen. And then on the back design, this is what you're going to get. Still looks fine. It's not like, I feel like for a cardistry deck, for a Cardistry the back design fan is kind of boring. So I feel like they kind of under-delivered on that. So next we're going to talk about the finish and how it feels in your hand. So the finish is going to be air cushion finish, which means it's going to glide beautifully for every move that requires any type of gliding. And it's not going to last like a short amount of time. It's going to last you a while. So you're all set there. Now how does this deck feel in your hand, right? I can't just take the deck and just shove it through the screen. That doesn't work. So the best thing I can do is explain it to you in two ways. Number one is how this deck actually feels in your hands, and number two is how thick it is. So how it actually feels in your hands is definitely more of a snappy deck or a crispy deck. You have from buttery to snappy and crispy. I just use crispy because I like bacon, and then you have more stiff decks. I wouldn't say that this deck is stiff. I think for maybe beginners it might be a little bit, but for the most part I'd just say it's pretty snappy, and that's just blatantly snappy. Now I think it can do some moves that are more meant for being buttery, like an under pressure. Like I don't have a problem with it, but at the same time it's definitely a snappy deck. Now when it comes to thickness, you have thinner decks, you have middle of the line, and you have thicker decks. This is going to be a thicker deck. It's not going to be on the thin side, or it's not even going to be in the middle, honestly. So you're going to have a snappy, thick deck. Super cool combination. Now lastly, should you buy the deck, right? Should you buy it? Well, here's what I'd tell you. Number one, think about this. It's going to depend on who you are. So before we get into who you are, again, it's 10% off. So no matter who you are, you're at least going to save money if you buy it. And make sure to go through the link in the description because it helps out the channel. But it depends on who you are. So let's go with magicians first. I see no purpose in buying this. You could use it for magic. I mean, it's not really like magic oriented, but at the same time, like, you could. It's nothing that's like, oh no, that's not a magic deck, that's a cardistry deck. Like, It's not virtuoso playing cards where everything's hard to read, but it's just not really anything special for Magic. I mean, you have one reveal card, but that's really about it. Next, you have Cardists, and although this is more of a Cardistry deck technically, because that's what the label they put it for, I don't really see this being used for a ton of Cardistry anyways. So if you've seen somebody do Cardistry, they can do Cardistry with just about any deck. Like, if you can do Cardistry with a bicycle deck, you can do one with this. But at the same time, I'm probably not going to use this in very many Cardistry videos. Like, if I'm like, ooh, what deck should I use for Cardistry? Ooh, CardistryCon 2019. That's not going to happen, right? It's just not. I mean, faces are pretty standard. The courts are slightly redone, and the back design is pretty well bland. It's not very cool. It's just not very cool for Cardistry. Now, if you're a collector, I think this is one that you can definitely pick up. If you like all stuff CardistryCon, if you like NOC, these are series that you can put in that you can say 100% I can collect all the NOC series or CardistryCon series or any of these different series that you can put this in, holographic tuck boxes or things like that. 100% you can pick this deck up. Anything about Alex Pandrea, etc. on. But for the most part, it's not like a low print run deck. It's not super like expensive, so you can pick this up and just be fine. So collect it, sure. I mean, I'm gonna put it in my collection because I think it's cool, and I like the tuck box. It's from CardistryCon. I'll be collecting this deck because I think it's dope, and clearly I did. So still super cool deck. Should you play games with it? I think you can, and there's nothing against it. But at the same time, I don't like people playing with my cards, and this is a hype deck. I'm going to say no. Simply because I think that there is some intentionality into it, and it's not just like slapping a dot or a couple of words. Like, yeah, you get the picture. It's not a hype deck for the most part. Now, if you like playing cards, of course, everything in the shop is 10% off, and I have an entire playlist of my favorite decks that I've reviewed. So I have my full deck review playlist, which is almost at 100 at this point, and then I have my favorite decks that I've reviewed playlist. So I'll leave both of those in the description below so you can check those out if you're wanting to see all the stuff that I would recommend to myself. And don't forget, these are 10% off in the description below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. This is Card Perfect, signing off.